Welcome to another episode of That's Some Crazy Shit with Kelly and James. I am Kelly, and the co-host with the most is James.
It's James.
It's James. Yep, he is.
What's up?
You know what, James? It is a fantastic day. We have yet another guest. We have attracted yet another author who has a crazy shit story.
And that's why they're here.
And it was so crazy, they wrote a book about it.
And that's why we're here.
And that's why we're here. So today's guest name is Rocko Paolo. And
I love the name.
You would think, God, Kelly, that name is crazy, but that's not the crazy shit about.
Oh no,
this
but
guest.
it is a cool name.
It is a cool name. But he is the author of a true story called The Damu Chronicles: Emails with the Sumerian God. And I will let him tell the story. However, just know that him and his co-worker were receiving emails from Damu, who is a Sumerian god. And he wrote
talked about the Sumerians.
We have talked about Sumerians.
Yeah, Gilgamesh and all the Anunnaki. So when I heard the content of his book, I was like, oh yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, so he is going to come on and talk about his experience. It took him 20 years to finally bring this to print.
Everything in its own time, man.
Yeah, yep. So I think we should just get right to it.
Well, let's do it then.
Welcome to the podcast, author Rocko Paolo.
Being on That's Some Crazy Shit, we appreciate it. The first time we talked, I was very excited. I kind of have learned a little bit about the Sumerians and read a little bit about Gilgamesh and things like that. And when I heard that you wrote a book about communicating with these gods, I was like, we got to get him here. So I was wondering, if you wanted to start in and tell us how you got started and how you got these emails. And the title of your book.
Yeah, the title of the book is Damu Chronicles, Emails with a Sumerian God. So basically the way this started is there was a friend of mine that our co-worker that we were very much always having kind of discussions, whether it was about supernatural or conspiracy theories. We just clicked on anything that was kind of out of the norm. And then one day he reached out to me and he said, hey, Rocko, it was really funny. I'm like, what are you talking about? Funny? He goes, I got an email from you. And I'm like, I didn't send you an email. He says, yes. He goes, you did. It had to have been you. And I said, can you forward it to me? I'd like to take a look at this email that you're saying I wrote. So he forwarded it to me and I read it and I was taken aback. I was like, this is pretty intriguing. It's pretty interesting stuff. Basically what the first email was telling my co-worker to do was to basically stop what you're doing, stop what you're saying. You're wrong on so many accounts. Just stop it, right? So basically just kind of saying that my co-worker was spreading a lot of untruths, we can say, and stating that it was kind of putting a lot of negative energy out there, and that stop doing this. So I found this very intriguing. So I told my buddy, I said, I don't know what this is, but my interest is piqued and I think we should find out who it is. So the emails weren't really coming to me. I would say 99% of it was not really directed to me. It was directed to my coworker, and I was kind of involved in it. So I had him reply to the email, and then this started going back and forth. And every single email after that was getting even more and more detailed. It was just getting more and more intriguing as far as the information that was being conveyed in these emails.
And when did this all start?
This started a long time ago. I mean, this all happened probably about 16 or so years ago. And I sat on it for the longest time because after it happened, I was still shaking with the whole thing that was going on. And it was just very complex material that was in there. So it's sort of like, how do I I knew it was something that I think should be out there, but I just couldn't figure out a way to do it. So I had an idea of like, well, maybe I'll just kind of like put the emails out there, and after each email, I would put my opinion of what was meant by that email based on what I could understand, because a lot of it was very complex, and I had to read it over and over again to kind of get a gist of what was being said. And then I said, well, I'm not sure if that's going to be the right approach, but then it just sat there. And about a year and a half or 2 years ago, I found all the emails again, had printed them. So I looked at them, and then I just started typing them, since I had them on written form. By typing them into my computer, again, it just kind of brought, the book together. What I started doing instead is I wrote it more about how the relationship was between me and my coworker, all the emails and everything that was happening between us as coworkers, between emails, the situation that occurred between us as friends, and how this kind of had an effect on our friendship, and also other people that got involved in it as well, because I had left the emails when I was printing them at work. I had left the emails kind of on my desk, and people, I guess just out of curiosity started reading what was on my desk. And other people were sort of saying, what is this stuff? What's going on? This is incredible. And it just kind of blew up from there.
So how did you determine that the emails were coming from a Sumerian god? Did you ever determine where the emails were coming from?
It's in the book. At one point, the person who was replying to us by emails indicated that they went by the name Damu. And this is like probably around 2004. So internet searches were not as great as they are now. So when I was trying to find out Damu, I couldn't find much on it at all. Now I can find a little bit more. It seems that Damu is a vegetation god. So back then I really couldn't find that information before. I did find information indicating that it was like a lesser known or not as important god. And based on the emails, Damu, as the person described themselves, they were indicating that they were considered to be like a teenager in the god spectrum. So they were, and also indicating that what they were letting us know might be, told otherwise by the elders, as he described them, saying that they might not even agree with what he was stating to us, saying that maybe his perception of what he believes to be the origins of mankind, the origins of the universe, might not be 100% correct either.
That's interesting. It coming from a teenager god, he would have a teenager point of view. That's interesting.
Even though his teenager god is still whatever, quite
right.
thousands or 100,000s of years, compared to human concept of time.
So how long did this occur? How long were you getting the emails, and then did it just stop one day?
It didn't. Well, it went on for a while. I would say several months, if not longer. Probably in total about a year. These emails were going back and forth. And then there were some strange things that happened near the end of it that it basically, I was satisfied with the ending on my end. So I didn't pursue it any further. There is a section at the very end of the book about emails after my involvement had ended. And I include that at the end of the book. So technically, I believe it did continue, but I was out of it by that point.
So what's the relationship with your coworker? Do you still have contact with him?
It's probably only a couple of years now. We've lost contact, just over time. But I think it was maybe about a year or two ago we stopped connecting completely. It's not that we're not friends anymore, but it just just got to a point where everything just, he knows the book is out because I sent him information. I haven't really heard much on his end about it, but I have made sure that he was aware that I was finally going through. He knew that was the point, even back then, that I was eventually looking at somehow getting this out there in some form or another. He's aware of that.
So in the emails over the course of, you said, a year, what type of information was being revealed that would make you believe that this was a Sumerian god? There would have to have been something, some type of confirmation to make you believe that this is real, right?
I agree. I can't say 100% that I can say that this was not, but the information, as I've indicated, I had to read it over. Each email I had to read several times to just try to get even an idea of like 20% of it. So the information was very complex, and at the same time, I never found any indication from one email to the next that it was being, anything was being, different, or basically repeating something that might not have been the same. So there was no contradictions whatsoever in there. So I found that very intriguing, because if I take even, I look at the Bible's full of contradictions that I can find in there. And I couldn't find any contradictions. Maybe there are, but I didn't see anything that indicated it. And my friend in the emails too, back and forth, constantly tried to get him to contradict himself by basically saying, well, last time you said this, and the reply was, no, I did not say that. No, I did not say this. So the person or the entity basically was aware of and never kind of strayed away from what they were saying. They were just adding even more details. Every time we asked a question, it just got more detail on top of detail.
Can you give us an example of some of the information that was given to you?
Some information, obviously it's very complex and in the book, but one of the things they had indicated, for example, one of the questions we often have as well, if aliens exist and all this stuff, why don't they just show themselves? Why don't they just appear and here we are, and everybody would, basically, I guess, kumbaya and be happy? The answer is no. What this entity had indicated, which is why they stepped forward, is that negative energy is something that has a very profound effect on certain alien races. And if any of them were to appear, just the global negativity that would be brought out as far as energy is concerned would just wipe them out. It would wipe them out like a nuclear blast. So one of the reasons why they say they do not just make an appearance or land on the lawn of the White House is because people, we know that we're pitchfork and flame holding people, right?
Yeah, we are.
We are, and we will not accept anything outside of our, we have very narrow-minded ways of thinking. So it's kind of, we would automatically, some people would think they're just demons, they'll think they're monsters, they'll think they're going to destroy us. And that's the main reason they say that, there's several alien races out there, and energies have a big effect on how, they survive. So they're not able to handle something of that nature. They can do it in small doses. That's why somebody might see an alien here and there, but if they were to just basically come on national television, the negative energy would just wipe them out.
That's sad. We carry a plague for these other alien, that's pretty disappointing.
It's the things that we just don't understand, right? There's stuff in the book, for example, when somebody says, well, God has no beginning and no end, let's say, for example, the human mind can't even grasp a thing of, if God made us, who made God? We don't have that ability to think outside of the box. We have a linear way of thinking. For example, more and more scientists are starting to understand, which is also in the book, that time is an illusion. Time does not exist. And but we still have a hard time understanding, well, time doesn't exist. Why do I wake up in the morning, and why do I watch? And we don't understand because we have this very linear way of thinking.
So you decided to publish this stuff and put it in a book. You say to get the information out there. So, and you said that this happened years ago, would you say like 2004, right? So at any point, was this person or entity giving you information about the future that now today would be the past?
No, but for example, something that was in there that I find right now is starting to become more and more the way people think, as far as for a certain alien race. For example, if I take the Greys, which are the ones that are the most common, the bug-eyed, 3 feet tall Greys. And so in 2004, it wasn't as predominant as it is now, where the entity, Demu, was indicating that they're not aliens. They are our future selves. They are human. We evolve into the Greys. So the Greys are basically time travelers. And I remember just like listening to that, and I was just like, this is complete BS and whatever. I've always known the Greys to be aliens if they did exist. But I find that now more and more I'm seeing more literature coming out, or more people coming up with that concept of the Greys being actually our future selves. So I'm like, okay, that's kind of like what like everything that's in the book. I can't say that I believe fully, but it's very intriguing, and like it goes into where we're in our origins of the universe, origins of certain alien races, and it was in a way that I'd never seen or heard before, and still till today, even though this was 2004, I have not seen anything remotely the same, other than, for example, there's Matrix time illusion type stuff in the book, which again is stuff that people are kind of like gravitating towards, interdimension, parallel universe verses and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That I find that in the book has that some of those elements in there, and I didn't know, and me personally, I didn't know any of this stuff back in 2004, as far as mass crowds believing in.
So when you see things that give you confirmation, how do you feel about that?
I find that, okay, it's very interesting, because I'm just like, okay, sort of like, I think back to, some of the first cases of where they were doing hypnosis on people that were being abducted, and the stories weren't out there at that time. That's what things people don't seem to understand, is when they first started doing the hypnosis and getting this information, is there wasn't the internet, this wasn't televised anywhere, but the stories were similar, and the people that were putting that information together were starting to see that, okay, how come somebody from this continent is having the exact same experience as somebody from another continent, and just kind of gathering that information together. So when people just, and I put that in the title, Emails from a Sumerian God, knowing that would automatically at some point just have people say, this guy's bat crazy, right? What, God's going to email? Like, really? Like, that's, But at the same time, if you look at a lot of visions people have had, it's either through a dream, they might have heard it through an animal's mouth.
Right, burning bush.
Exactly. So there's different mediums, and I found that, when I look back now, I'm like, well, 2004, the internet, as far as I was concerned, was starting to kind of like make a little bit of a path around 97, 98. And, so it was still young. Like I said, I had a hard time finding anything at the time when this was all happening on the internet. Now I can find a little bit more stuff that's kind of going more in line with what was written in the book. But again, so I'm just like, because you got to remember, it's not like there was some entity just sitting in a room with a computer. This is basically the Damu was indicated that they pretty much, in our understanding, possessed a human being's body and used that as their tool to start the communication.
Did your friend ever find out why, besides Damu reaching out to him to tell him that he's spreading misinformation, did your friend like find out like how, if there was no internet or whatever, how did Damu find out he was spreading the information? Where was he spreading the information? If you're two just having a conversation.
It came out, like I said, the first couple of emails came out almost angry tone from Damu. We didn't know who it was, but it just seemed to be, I guess, like I said, there was some tangents in there, some indication of, like I said, the teenage part of this god. Just basically the way they were reaching out, but at the same time they're kind of like saying your negativity is pretty much, this is why I'm here. It's like, obviously they probably, Damu felt something very strong coming from my friend, that he decided not to ignore it, decided to confront it directly when he should have been ignoring it, based on the information that I was seeing in the emails. Was like, I shouldn't be reaching out to you guys, but I just, I'm this teenage god that basically I've had enough of you.
Serious?
Set you straight, and that was that.
Wow. So what made you decide to go ahead and publish it? Why put it out there?
Like I said, when I first did it, I thought it should be out there, but it was too soon, and I wasn't sure how to put it together. But like I said, in the last couple of years, at one point, I just was rummaging through my stuff, and I saw the pack of emails, and I just, like I said, I started typing them back in because I was trying to find the emails. I did find several emails still in my folder of my email, but I didn't see them all. And I think even in the book, there's some that I found even after the fact, so because things were not really organized properly. So I just started, just by typing them in, it just flowed and it started coming back to me, and it just basically, I said, you know what, I have to put this out there.
So it ended up basically writing itself when it was ready.
It was really quick. It was a really quick process. I think it took less than a month for me typing the first word from the email to putting it out there.
Now Kelly's an author. That doesn't happen, right, Kelly?
Usually, it's funny. Most people say that when they write their book, I have had several people say that it was channeled, right? They sit down and they just start to write.
It
just comes to them. So it comes from somewhere. And when you started writing the emails, maybe again, you were channeling that whole situation. Yeah. If you could do it in a month, because you're reading and now you're absorbing everything too. To read and type, I think helps you remember even more.
I agree.
So. Well,
there are studies that saying when you're learning, if you write, I'm in education, and that's why we have kids write things, because it does it. You learn them.
It's the same
completely.
Thing as saying things out loud, right? When you're reading out loud, it stays into your mind. Like you're asking somebody for the phone number, and they're saying it to you verbally, and then you verbal it back. It stays in your memory more so than if you're writing on a piece of paper. So I was reading them at the same time and reading them out loud, just basically, putting myself back in there. And it just like was just said just a couple minutes ago, it just basically it channeled right out completely, and I just wrote the parts in between as far as what was going on at the office and other people that got involved, and how this, because at one point I think there was like 3 or 4 people that just came up with a list of questions they wanted to ask. Like it just really got to a point where everybody was intrigued and saying, okay, we really like the information that's coming, whether it's true or not. Doesn't matter to us at this point. It's just that it's really interesting. Right. I want to know more. It's like we were just all hungry for more.
That's what we say here. That's some crazy shit.
Yeah.
Did you find any of the information helpful?
Yes, in the sense that I found that it really made me rethink some of the beliefs that I have, right? It really made me think outside of the box, saying, you know what? Some of the things that are being said there, for example, the origins of man, the origins of some of these alien races and who we are or were. Yeah, does it change my day to day? Absolutely not, right? Whether or not I believe in a God or I don't believe in a God, I still wake up in the morning, go to work. It doesn't really change my day to day. but it does kind of, I found that it really opened up my my mind to try and really think, outside. Like, for example, the fact that scientists keep looking for planets with water, for me, just makes absolutely no sense. Because yes, we need water to live. Doesn't mean that another race or another.
Exactly. Yeah.
When I see stuff like that now, even more so after writing the book or going through that experience, is even more batshit crazy. Sort of like, guys, stop with your "I need water for life." It's like, we need water for life.
And we're not the only form of life out there. So yeah.
Exactly.
Very cool. Where is the book available?
The book's available at pretty much Amazon, and Kindle as well. I think has it. I have it at Barnes and Nobles. It's just every digital outlet, so you can have it as ebook as well as in printed form, print on demand.
Audiobook?
No, I've been looking at doing that myself. I just haven't gotten around to it, but I definitely want to do an audio version of the book. I mean, it's not a very long book. I mean, it's 88 pages. It's just I haven't gotten around to it, but yeah, I definitely would like to do that.
Well, very cool. Tell us the name of the book one more time.
It's the Damu Chronicles: Emails with a Sumerian God.
By
Rocko Paolo, myself. Talking myself in third person.
Thank you so much for being on the show and sharing the book and the experience. That it is some crazy shit. That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get the book. Now I'm all excited to read it.
You piqued his interest.
Yeah, I am. I'm very interested.
I'm curious to know what you think. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm always interested. I mean, there's only one person, I think, on Amazon that actually wrote a review out there. But if you read just the review that he wrote, I'm like blown away. Like, they indicated how they had to read it over and over again, like I did, and saying that the information was really intriguing. So I'm glad to see that I'm not alone in thinking that way. That basically,
that's nice to know. Yeah,
it's good to know that somebody didn't read it and say, "Hey, this was written by a 2-year-old child." They're looking at it and saying, "Okay, let me reread that part again, reread," and so I like the fact that that it's still we're now 2021, and as I've indicated, there's a lot of stuff that's in my book that I still haven't seen out there.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. We appreciate you.
Yes, thank you.
This was great. Thank you very much.
First of all, I still think Rocko Paolo is a cool name. So, but that's crazy. Can you imagine, getting an email one day? Okay. So here we talk about a lot of information here. We give a lot of stuff out. Can you imagine all of a sudden we get an email saying, "Hey, Kelly and James, you're spreading a lot of misinformation, and it's from a Hindu god or a Sumerian god or an Aztec god." That would be crazy.
It would be crazy. And I guess, Rocko, I appreciate him coming on, sharing his story. That the information that I wanted him to share obviously is in the book.
In the book, yeah.
So if you want to know, you got to go get the book. And I appreciate that. I get it. As one author to another, I get it. Just enough to entice you to buy the book. And I'm intrigued because I wanted to know the story, and he's like, you gotta go buy that book if you want to know the story. And I get it. So I'm intrigued. It's weird how this god, the Sumerian god, chose, to share the information, not only via email, but he said that some of the information was so complex, he had to read it like 2, 3, 4 times just to get the gist of it.
Right. So that's pretty interesting too. I'm going to get the book. When we're done here, Amazon, here I come.
Yeah, so it's called The Damu Chronicles: Emails with the Sumerian God by author Rocko Paolo. It is on Amazon.